When the Galactic Council demanded to inspect Earth's weapons labs, they expected steel, lasers, and coding. What they found instead were tombstones, each one still humming with sorrow, rage, and firepower. See, aliens forge tech with logic. But humans? We build with pain, with madness, with memories that scream. And that's why our weapons don't just kill, they remember. The ship carved a perfect path through the black, silent void. Its arrival had no fanfare, no escort, no celebration. That alone should have terrified the delegation. Instead, they were greeted by silence. Ambassador Verix of the Tloth Syndicate shifted in his seat, antennae twitching as the ship docked against the orbital fortress known only as the Crucible. It hung like a massive, skeletal ring over Earth's shadow, cold, faceless, and weaponless on the surface. A lie. The other delegates, Senvora of the Vari, Commander Vazek of the Skarn Dominion, and the silent monk from the Ashari Sway, stood behind him as the pressure locks hissed open. They expected military officers, parade formations, weapon displays. Instead, a single man waited on the platform. He was broad-shouldered, his left arm entirely synthetic, chrome-etched with the names of planets. His eyes were gray, not from age but from fire. And he smiled without moving his mouth. "You wanted to see the edge of human violence," he said. "I'm Calder Rook, Chief Architect. Follow me. Try not to bleed." Senvora stepped forward. "We were told this was a peace inspection." "That's adorable," Calder muttered, walking without waiting. They passed no guards. Only walls pulsing faintly with power. Machinery hummed beneath their feet. No signs of weapons. No racks of guns or rows of orbits. Only carved metal and warm air, like a cathedral. And something else. Vazek sniffed. "Is that incense?" "Burnt gunpowder," Calder replied. "We honor what we build. You should too." They stopped before a massive steel door. Calder placed his hand on a biometric pad. "You want to understand why our weapons frighten you? This is the easy part. The hard part comes when you sleep." The door hissed open. Inside, a long hall. Artifacts suspended in magnetic fields. Glowing, humming, twitching. A black orb turning inside out with every pulse. A rifle so thin it looked like a splinter of glass. A pair of boots, blood-stained, mounted beneath a flickering hollow of a dead soldier's face. "This is the archive," Calder said. "Where we store the firsts. First pain bomb. First suicide drone. First grief-triggered blade. All powered by the same thing, us." "You mean your minds?" the monk asked softly. "No. Worse. Our emotions." Verix narrowed his compound eyes. "You weaponize emotion?" Calder gestured toward a sealed container. A human skull, half metal, suspended in a field. "Meet Marla Dean. Lost her family to a planetary strike. Donated herself to the Widow's Veil system. Her grief activates a neural cluster that controls a battalion of drones. Every time a child screams within 50 clicks of the enemy, she wakes up." Vazek scoffed. "You're lying." Calder didn't flinch. "She killed 4,003 Skarn warriors in 2 days. The weapon didn't reload." "She did." Senvora stepped closer to another pod. "What is this?" A small black cube hummed. Inside, thin threads of red light formed fractal patterns, twitching like nervous fingers. "The scream," Calder said. "Constructed from a single human's final death scream, looped and inverted to rupture sound barriers, disrupt psychic comms, and collapse light phase shielding. One scream. One moment of terror. Now immortal." Verix's mandibles clicked. "This is heresy." "No," Calder said. "It's efficiency." The monk finally spoke. "This is not science. This is madness bound in circuitry." Calder turned, eyes flaring. "Exactly. And that's the problem, isn't it? Your species mastered logic. Equations. Stability. But war isn't logical. Pain isn't rational. Humans are the only race in this galaxy mad enough to trap pain in a cage and turn it into a trigger. They walked deeper into the archive. The lights dimmed. A low vibration ran through the floor. You're not showing us weapons, Vazek growled. You're showing off ghosts. Calder stopped. Then, slowly, he turned to face them. You're not here to inspect. You're here to understand why you'll never match us. Why, in a war where numbers are equal, you lose. Every time. You build tools. We build vendettas. You want specs? I'll give you one. He pointed to a black obelisk in the center of the room. That's Project Hand. Human-assisted neural detonation. A blade linked to a combat veteran's trauma record. It can't be lifted unless the wielder feels righteous fury. No batteries. No fuel. Only rage. Vazek stepped forward. And you expect us to believe this primitive bonding has strategic merit? Calder smiled, genuinely, cruelly. It already does. And you're late to the funeral. Suddenly, the lights cut out. Alarms flickered red across the walls. Calder's hand didn't move. The delegates flinched. What's happening? Vurick snapped. Looks like someone just tried to access Chamber 9. Calder turned toward Vazek. Skarn Dominion protocols. You wouldn't happen to know anything about that, would you? I demand. Don't bother. Calder's voice dropped. You triggered the failsafes. And now she's awake. The walls began to hum with a low, weeping sound. Like a lullaby choked by static. Vurix clutched his head. The monk fell to one knee. Only Senvora remained standing, trembling. Calder sighed. You should have asked before touching Gravemother. Vazek reached for his communicator. You can't stop us. I don't need to. Calder walked to the control panel and tapped once. Above them, holograms ignited. Not maps. Not targets. Memories. A mother on her knees. Children in flames. Screams swallowed by orbital fire. She gave us her last moment, Calder whispered. We turned it into a weapon that only activates when it detects guilt. Vazek screamed as blood poured from his ears. The door slammed shut behind them. Calder looked at the others. You still want to inspect our arsenal? The monk whispered. We were wrong. Calder nodded. Yes. But now, you understand. He stepped away, hands clasped behind his back. Welcome to the Crucible. Where we don't build weapons. He glanced over his shoulder, voice hard as tungsten. We resurrect wrath. You wanted a demonstration, Calder said, walking ahead without turning. So here it is. You'll see why no species dares build the way we do. Vurix hesitated at the threshold of the next chamber. We are not here to indulge human dramatics. Dramatics? Calder chuckled. What you're about to see killed a war in under an hour. The door opened. The chamber beyond pulsed with faint blue light, humming with neural energy. Along the walls, transparent pods displayed weapons, some silent, some twitching, others whispering. A low chant echoed from somewhere unseen. None of the alien delegates spoke. Senvora's luminous eyes scanned the room, her breath catching slightly as a hologram bloomed beside her. Touch nothing, Calder warned. If it sings, back away. If it weeps, pray. The first pod lit up. Inside floated a silver disk with hundreds of microneedles spiraling across its surface. This is the Halo Shredder, Calder said. Made from the memories of a dismembered Marine who survived 23 hours in enemy territory, without limbs. It homes in on biosignatures of cowardice. Yes, cowardice. It won't target the brave. Vazek's eye ridge furrowed. How does it define bravery? The way he did. If you don't move forward when under fire, it assumes you've failed the test. And it will correct you. Calder moved on, pausing before a tall, thin spike of black crystal pulsing faintly red. The obelisk, he said, voice lowered. Encoded with survivor guilt. Everyone in her unit died. She lived. She asked to be made into something that never would. It projects a field that makes every soldier within range remember who they let die. The guilt becomes physical. Can't breathe. Can't fire. Can't fight. The monk's voice was quiet. That is abhorrent. That is human, Calder replied. You wanted to know why we lead in weapons tech? Because we're the only species that doesn't flinch when pain knocks. They approached a tank-sized construct suspended in gravity locks. It appeared almost insected, spiked limbs, shifting metallic tendrils, and a head that resembled a human skull, partially mechanized. This is Sable, Calder said. Classified AI. First of her kind. She's part war engine, part emotion parasite. Fed by vengeance. Literally. Every time an operator loses someone they love, she grows stronger. She's been deployed 4 times. Senvora took a step back. It's alive. Not really, Calder said, though his expression said otherwise. But it remembers being human. And that's enough. Vezek crossed his arms. All of this is psychological. Fear-mongering. Where's the science? Calder grinned like a wolf. The science is simple. You've got brains. We've got trauma. And no one monetizes trauma like we do. He turned and typed a sequence into the console. The lights in the chamber dimmed, replaced by holographic projections. A field hospital. A soldier screaming into a bloodied helmet. A parent clutching a burned photo. Screams, sobbing, silence. These are our schematics, Calder said. We don't just record pain. We encode it. Neural patterns during loss, rage, hopelessness. Our weapons are born from this. The reason your civilizations can't replicate our tech is because none of you are willing to walk through this. Varix leaned forward. Then why do you? Because someone has to be worse than the enemy. He tapped another command. A single pod emerged from the floor, cylindrical, smooth, black. It opened. Inside was a small cube, no bigger than a hand. The box, Calder said. Developed during the siege of Siren. 5 million humans died holding the line. We took every death scream, last breath, final curse, and we compressed it into a sonic algorithm. When deployed, it doesn't kill. He paused. It ends. Senvora shook her head slowly. I don't understand. It wipes emotional memory. Entire armies forget why they're fighting. Friends become strangers. Commanders lose purpose. Soldiers drop weapons, wandering empty. We used it once. The enemy surrendered without a single casualty. Their morale has never recovered. Vezek snarled. And you call this ethical warfare? No, Calder snapped. I call it effective. We don't build for elegance. We build for never needing to fire twice. He turned to the delegates. You came for secrets. You came for numbers. But this isn't a numbers game. It's not about range or payload. It's about resolve. When humans make war, we don't build weapons. We exorcise demons. And we give them teeth. The monk whispered a prayer under his breath. Calder caught it. Pray all you want. But know this, those weapons out there. He pointed toward the array of dormant constructs. Each one was made by someone who felt too much. A mother. A brother. A broken survivor. And every time you face one in battle, you're not fighting tech. You're fighting them. He walked slowly toward a sealed door at the far end. What's beyond that? Senvora asked, her voice tight. That, Calder said, is the final exhibit. Chamber 9. Where we keep the one thing we couldn't replicate. The one weapon we never learned how to control. Vezek laughed bitterly. Is this where you bring out the myth? The demon in a box? We are military officers, not children. Calder glanced at him. You'd be surprised how many children we buried to make her. He stepped closer to the panel. I show you this next room, not to impress you, but to remind you, every weapon has a soul. And the more you lie to yourself about ours, the sooner yours will shatter. He placed his hand on the scanner. The room hissed, locks disengaging. And then, a whisper. Low. Feminine. Broken. Calder. The temperature dropped. His voice cracked for the first time. She knows I'm here. She always does. Senvora stared at the door, visibly disturbed. What is she? Calder turned slowly, eyes no longer cold, but hollow. She's the reason this station has no defense grid. We don't need one. The light dimmed. The humming stopped. Only the whisper remained, drifting like ash in the air. They came again. I remember. Calder looked at them one last time. You asked why we make the galaxy's most advanced weapons? He stepped forward into the dark. Because only humans are willing to listen to the dead long enough to learn what they still want to kill. Vazek didn't report back to his command ship. That fact alone should have stopped the delegation. But they kept walking deeper into the crucible, following Calder down echoing corridors that grew darker, narrower, colder. Silence pressed around them like a second skin. We lost contact with Commander Vazek, Burek said, adjusting his communicator with jittering limbs. He was last seen near Chamber 9. Explain. Calder didn't break stride. He made a decision. She made another. That's how choices work. You're obstructing a council investigation, Burek hissed. This is grounds for sanction. I'd love to see your sanctions get through our outer perimeter. Try again. The monk of the Ashari said nothing, but his steady breathing had become shallow. His long fingers trembled as he traced silent prayers in the air. Senvora looked pale, her voice barely a whisper. She spoke. Calder finally turned. Yes. She always does. When the guilty get too close. She's not a machine, is she? Senvora asked. Calder smiled, but there was no joy in it. She was. They entered a vast, hollowed chamber lit by nothing but crimson pulses across the ceiling, slow and methodical, like a heartbeat barely clinging to life. At the center was an empty dais. She's not here, Burek snapped. She's never here, Calder replied. But she sees. She listens. Who is she? He let the silence stretch, then said. She was Dr. Anika Solis. Weapons engineer. Mother of 2. She volunteered after watching her children die in the bombardment of Varela Colony. You turned a grieving woman into a war device. Burek spat. No, Calder said. She turned herself. We just recorded the process. Senvora's voice cracked. How do you even survive that? Calder's tone sharpened. You don't. A sound, a breath, barely audible, rippled across the chamber. A cold wind with no source. Verix froze. His compound eyes dilated. She's watching, the monk whispered. Yes, Calder said. Because someone just lied. Verix backed up. I said nothing. She doesn't care what you said. She cares what you felt. And you just felt deceit. The floor shuddered. Not an earthquake, something worse. Memory, condensed into sound, uncoiled through the walls. A child's laugh turned scream. A lullaby played backwards. Boots on metal. Then silence again. Calder didn't move. She's testing you. Turn her off. Verix shouted, voice rising. She doesn't turn off. Senvora stepped closer to the dais. Why build something like this? You don't understand, Calder said. She isn't a weapon. She's a question. Every time she's activated, it's because someone tried to steal, betray, or forget. We didn't make her to attack. We made her to remember. To judge. Verix spun around, panic thick in his voice. We need to leave. This place is cursed. Calder's eyes locked on him. You shouldn't have said that. The room pulsed again. Images flickered in the air, holographic memories, laced with agony. Children burned into shadow against concrete walls. Soldiers torn open while screaming orders. A small girl holding a melted toy. Then it all snapped away. A voice filled the chamber. Not mechanical. Not synthetic. Human. I remember you. Verix collapsed to his knees, screaming. Blood seeped from his nose. She's reading him, Calder muttered. He was part of the blockade on Varela. His ship denied landing rights to the evacuation fleet. I didn't give that order, Verix gasped. No, Calder agreed. But you signed the transmission logs. The monk clutched his robes, whispering furiously. Calder turned toward him. You brought priests. Not scientists. That's telling. She's beyond tech, the monk said. She's not beyond anything, Calder replied. She's what happens when you build from the soul instead of the circuit board. Senvora moved to help Verix, but a pulse knocked her flat. The air snapped. The room screamed. She sees what you did, the voice said. What you tried to bury. Calder's expression softened. You all thought we made the most advanced weapons. But the truth is simpler. We make the most personal ones. Verix howled and then went still. Not dead. Not unconscious. Just gone. His mind blank, wiped clean. A shell with a heartbeat. She took everything, the monk whispered. No, Calder said. Just the part of him that thought lies were safe. Senvora rose slowly. Why show us this? Calder looked tired. Older than he was. Because every empire thinks they can duplicate us. They think it's about material, code, physics. But it's not. It's about the wound. We don't patch it. We weaponize it. The monk stood. This is a sanctum of death. Calder gestured to the air, where holographic names floated, tens of thousands of names. No, he said. It's a sanctum of memory. Senvora wiped her eyes. Then why did you let us come? Because someday, you'll want to build like us. And now you'll remember why you shouldn't. The floor lifted Verix's body on a metal stretcher, slowly retracting it into the walls. The dais dimmed. The pulses faded. She's gone, the monk said. She's always here, Calder whispered. They turned to leave. Senvora hesitated at the exit. What would happen if someone like her escaped? Calder didn't smile this time. She doesn't want to leave. Out there, they forget. In here, they remember. They walked through the corridor in silence, their footsteps the only sound. Behind them, unseen, a whisper followed. I remember everything. You knew he would die, the monk said as they emerged into the hangar corridor. Calder kept walking. I knew he tried to take something that wasn't his. I didn't know what she'd leave behind. You call that thing a she. She earned it. Senvora moved ahead, her stride sharp, purposeful. Where are you taking us now? To what you came for. Calder's voice had shifted. No more venom, no dramatics. Flat. Cold. Live demonstration. You've seen the ghosts. Now you'll see the flame. Verix was gone. Vazek had never returned. The remaining three passed under steel archways etched with warnings in hundreds of languages. No translators needed, the feeling sank into their bones. Danger. Finality. I need consent, Calder said. For what? Senvora asked. Combat sim. Real parameters. Real risk. No fatality. Unless you provoke something you shouldn't. The monk nodded. Let it be judged. Calder glanced at him, surprised. Brave. The doors opened into a vast circular arena surrounded by observation towers. Drones floated silently above. Calder walked to the center. I'm activating Protocol Zulu. What you'll see is a controlled simulation of what happens when someone breaches our planetary defenses without authorization. This is what greets invaders. The floor vibrated. Senvora's ears twitched. Something's coming. Calder looked at the monk. You meditate. Good. You'll need it. The air thickened with static. A shape rose from the far end, bipedal, massive, armored in interlocking plates. Glowing veins of orange pulsed along its limbs. But it wasn't a mech. It breathed. It growled. Meet Farron, a pain-bound sentinel, Calder said. His new frame was built using the battle-logged memories of a soldier who survived 12 war zones without ever losing his unit. Senvora's voice dropped. What does it do? Protects anything that feels like home. This facility, for example. If he thinks you're a threat, he'll correct it. The monk took one step forward. Farron's head snapped in his direction. Don't move unless you're certain you want to be remembered that way, Calder warned. The monk raised his hands. I am not afraid. You should be. He doesn't like liars. Farron stepped forward. Each motion was precise, deliberate. It scanned them, then paused. A low sound vibrated through the air. He's reading your regret levels, Calder explained. Human tech doesn't ask for intent. It reads impact. If your guilt's louder than your purpose, you're a target. Farron took another step. The monk dropped to his knees and bowed his head. Let me pass in peace. Farron paused, then turned away. He accepted that, Calder said. Honesty and surrender. Our weapons respect that. Senvora stared at the beast. Can it be reasoned with? It's not alive in the way you understand. But it remembers its source. The soldier who became Farron was fiercely loyal. So if you show loyalty, truthful, irrational, human loyalty, it responds. Calder tapped his wrist console. The arena changed. The lights dimmed. Holographic projections of an alien armada surrounded the chamber. Vari ships, Skarn dropships, Ashari bombers. You asked why Earth's weapons are feared. It's because we know exactly how to break things that think they're unbreakable. The air split with a thunderclap. Dozens of projectiles shot out of the walls, sleek, black, serpentine. Drones formed midair, weaving through the projections with terrifying speed. They exploded, morphed, reassembled mid-flight. Those are Wraith swarms, Calder said. Built from failed suicide bombers. Not the explosives, just the decision to detonate. We mapped that moment of final resolve and turned it into target acquisition logic. Senvora's jaw clenched. That's impossible. That's humanity. A new sound music? No. A sobbing choir. Calder looked upward. Widow's breath is deploying. A smoky fog seeped from the ceiling. A lullaby echoed across the floor. The monk gasped. I can hear names. She sings to every soldier she lost, Calder said. Each time she activates, she adds another. She's designed to disable enemies through grief resonance. It lowers blood pressure, slows muscle memory, triggers combat hesitation. Even machines stall. Senvora stumbled, clenching her fists. It's inside my head. Exactly where we want it. The fog cleared. The swarm dispersed. Calder turned to the two remaining delegates. This is why we win. Not because we outshoot. Because we outfeel. We bind every weapon to a memory, a scream, a final promise. And when they fire, they don't just destroy the enemy. He stepped forward. They mourn them. Senvora looked down, hands shaking. You fight with ghosts. No, Calder said. We fight for them. A final pulse rippled through the room. The arena went dark. All systems ceased. Silence. Then the dais lit up again. A single image floated in the air, a woman, holding two children. All smiling. Anika Solis, Calder said. Her memories trained the AI in charge of this entire station. Her last laugh, her final kiss, the panic in her voice when the orbital alarms failed. All of it stored. Studied. Weaponized. Senvora closed her eyes. This isn't warfare. It's theology. The monk placed a hand on his chest. No. This is penance. Calder stepped off the platform. You came looking for secrets. Weapons. Specs. But none of those are the reason we're feared. The real reason? He stopped before them. We never moved on. They walked out in silence. No one asked for another demonstration. The lift ascended in silence, breaking through layers of reinforced steel toward the crucible's apex. The monk stood quietly at the back, hands folded, gaze distant. Senvora stood near Calder, no longer combative, only focused. So what happens now? She asked. Calder didn't look at her. Now you're going to see why we don't sell our weapons. Not even to allies. The lift stopped. The doors opened into a glass chamber, wide and clean, with a single terminal glowing at the center. Outside, stars drifted in motionless beauty. Earth hung below like a quiet warning. This isn't another weapon bay, Senvora said. No, Calder replied. This is the override chamber. If something ever goes wrong in the Crucible, everything shuts down from here. Every AI. Every construct. Every memory. You're showing us your weakness? Calder nodded. I'm showing you the lock. But not the key. The monk stepped forward. Why bring us here? Because it's where I decide what happens next. Senvora frowned. You think we're still a threat? I think one of you is still lying. The room shifted. Lights dimmed. The console flared red. A voice filtered into the air, low, female, almost gentle. I know which one. Calder stared at the console. You're sure? The voice posed. I see him now. Trying to mask intent. Borrowing calm from borrowed minds. Senvora stepped back. She's talking about. The monk raised his head. Gone was the stillness. Gone was the serenity. In its place, calculation. Cold. Reptilian. An interesting test, he said in a completely different voice. Truly impressive constructs. But this is still just data. Even pain can be dissected. Your strength is artificial. Calder didn't move. Who are you? The monk stepped away from them. His robe began to dissolve, nanofabric unwinding to reveal scaled armor beneath. His form shimmered, then resolved. A Saroskin agent. Intelligence warfare, 4th tier. Illegal in 5 galactic sectors. You thought we came to understand, he said. But understanding is a prelude to replacement. We extract. We mimic. And once we do, we improve. You think you can replicate what you've seen? Calder's voice was sharp now. We've already begun. The agent raised a black spike from his belt, a data siphon laced with viral mimic protocols. He pressed it against the console. The Crucible didn't react. Until it did. Lights shattered. The room screamed. And every screen lit up with a single word, rejected. The agent staggered. What? Calder stepped forward, eyes burning. You thought pain was just a pattern. Something you could scan, rewrite, upload. The agent drew a weapon, pulse blade humming with stolen energy. Calder didn't flinch. You missed the part where pain wants to be remembered. The glass cracked. The walls bent. And behind the agent, a figure stepped out of the air, shadowed, burning from within. Not Solis. Something new. Something that had learned from her. A war child of fire and echo, face blank, but eyes like funeral pyres. The agent lunged. The figure moved faster. The blade passed through its form, but not unchallenged. It screamed. Not the figure. The agent. He dropped to the floor, clawing at his head. Senvora stepped back, stunned. What's happening? He's being unmade, Calder said quietly. She's rewriting him with the memories he tried to steal. In reverse. Every soul he scanned. Every child. Every last breath he filed under anomaly. He's going to feel it all. The figure knelt beside the twitching body. It tilted its head once. Then it disappeared. Only ash remained. Senvora stared in silence. The console calmed. Lights returned to normal. Was that another weapon? She asked. No, Calder said. That was evolution. Solis isn't just remembering anymore. She's learning. She created that from the pain he brought with him. That was a response. You're telling me your systems adapt to threat profiles by manifesting emotional reactions? Calder looked out the glass toward Earth. No. I'm telling you they mourn the way we do. And they don't forget. Senvora walked slowly to the console. Why let me live? Calder turned to face her. Because you watched. You listened. You didn't try to take. That's the only reason. I can't imagine this being contained forever. It won't be. He tapped the console. A file appeared, encrypted. What is that? She asked. A message. From her. To your council. You'll let me deliver it? You're the only one left to. Senvora reached for it, then paused. What does it say? He looked her dead in the eye. It says this: we gave the galaxy peace. And you tried to take the pieces from our graves. You want to understand humans? Then understand this: our weapons don't run on power. They run on what we lost. And we have an endless supply. She took the drive. Calder walked to the edge of the chamber. When you go back, he said, they'll want to know what to fear. Tell them it's not the crucible. He looked down at the blue orb below. Tell them it's what we're willing to remember. She left without another word. Behind her, Calder stared into space, alone. But not unaccompanied. From the dark, a whisper came, not from the console, but from somewhere deeper. A voice he knew too well. Good job, Calder. They won't forget. He smiled. I'm counting on it.